This story may be distressing to some viewers. Discretion is advised. This happened when I was at high school. I belonged to a basketball club. I developed a huge crush on a senior at the club. We ended up getting very close. We often met in private together. On a day we both had off from school, he called me, asking me if I wanted to come over and hang out. Of course, I was over the moon to be invited to his home. So I asked him for his address straight away. "I'm actually outside your house. Why don't you come out and I'll take you there?" I went out there as fast as I could. There was a car waiting outside our family home. There was some weird guy I hadn't seen before sat with my crush in the car. I got in the car and he spun around and said to me, "Let's go have some fun." And with that, we pulled away. I wondered where the hell we were going, or what the hell we were going to do, as the car rumbled through the countryside roads. The car suddenly stopped and my crush blurted out, "I have something I've really got to do. I'll be back as soon as I can." And he left me. Oh my god, why are you leaving now? I thought, but I trusted in him to be right back just as he said. I felt lost and confused, but I just tried to enjoy the drive. After a while the car stopped and we arrived at a house. I knew it wasn't my crush's house, as the nameplate outside was different. The guy in the car then asked, "Why don't we go in and have a drink while we wait?" I felt obliged to accept his offer, as he was friends with my crush. When we got inside, something was wrong. I was getting a very bad vibe. Loads of my new acquaintances' friends were sat around a table. It freaked me out. Why was I brought here? I wondered. The people there were being nice to me there. Before long, night came. I had mentioned a few times my desire to go home before it got too late, yet no one batted an eyelid to this request. I really started to worry now. So I kept stating, "I want to go home soon." I had an incoming call from my mum. One of the guys there went crazy at me when I excused myself to answer it. He snatched the phone right out of my hand. This was no longer a friendly or normal situation. The man who took my phone told me I wouldn't be going anywhere. I judged the situation as best I could and came to the conclusion that I had been brought here by my crush to these strange men. Perhaps they were small-time yakuza or something. It seemed as if I would be spending the night here, possibly longer. My heart ached. I just wanted to see my parents again. It's a feeling I wouldn't wish on my worst enemies. Before I knew it, I was bawling my eyes out. They put me in another room and told me to sleep. I tried to think on my feet. I opened the door as quietly as I could. I listened to the men's conversation, and it went like this. "We will get a good price for her from the Koreans. The poor girl. It's fine." I couldn't believe I was listening to them discussing my future. After they finished talking, they came upstairs and locked my door. I got in the bed. There wasn't anything else I could do. I resigned myself to my fate. I had to come to terms with the idea that I wouldn't see my parents or friends ever again. I tried to psychologically prepare for whatever would happen next. I saw the early light of morning. I needed the toilet, so I knocked on the door. Someone came to open it. My heart was pounding again. "I don't want to do this, but if you try to escape or go somewhere where I can't see you, then..." He trailed off. The threat was obvious. "I won't try to escape," I whimpered. As I said those words, I apologized from the bottom of my heart to my parents. My life in abduction went on this way for a week, until one night I was forcibly woken from my sleep, dragged out to a car so violently by the man who picked me up originally. I was thrown in, the engine started, and we pulled away. I had no idea where we were headed. To the Koreans, I guess. It had been so hard in these last days and nights to escape reality. I couldn't even comfort myself with family memories, as it would have been just too painful. I was losing my mind. I was ready to die. I couldn't physically cry anymore. I was absent-mindedly gazing out of the passenger side window when I started to notice familiar things from my neighborhood. Then the car pulled to a stop in front of my house. "Go," said the man. I got out, and he pulled away into the night. He must have felt some sympathy for me, or his conscience kicked in. To this day, I have no idea what caused his change in heart. I was dumbstruck to be returning home safely. I went inside my family home, a place I thought only moments ago I'd never see again. My mother rushed downstairs. She must have heard me come in. She was so angry. Because I was young and stupid, I thought telling her about my abduction would get me into more trouble or make her worry. So I just told her I'd been staying with a friend. She screamed at me for not getting in touch with her once during the last week. My mother still doesn't know what happened, and it's 10 years later. When I went back to school, I couldn't find a trace of my crush, that senior who had gotten me into that mess. He must have left town before handing me over to those men. I hope he can't sleep at night. I hope he's tormented and tortured by his guilt. It was a truly terrifying event, but I'm very lucky to say that I live well these days, and I live happily. I can't say this anywhere but online, anonymously. I'm a stalker. This is my story. She was coming home from work. I first caught a glimpse of her gorgeous face on the train amongst the other commuters. Her long hair was in a ponytail, and she had an oval face. She was so beautiful. When she got off the train, I followed. She left the train station and walked through a shopping center, then out onto the streets, right up to her apartment. After following her for a number of days, I figured out that she lived on the 2nd floor in the 7th room along. She never noticed me. Every night she stopped off at the local convenience store and picked up a bottle of tea and some bread. I like to imagine that she ate it after dinner, but I guess she could have had it for breakfast. Before I knew it, I was a stalker, I guess. I knew I had a problem, but I knew I couldn't stop. I didn't want to. I kept stalking her like this for about a month, but I didn't do anything to her. No, I never touched her. Not a hair on her head. No, I would never. She got off at the same time every night, went the exact route home, and I was always 1 minute behind her. I don't know what my endgame scenario was. I just liked her. I followed her one night to her apartment. I checked the time every night, and I figured out she would get to her front door at 8:25:31 exactly. I whispered, "Good night," every night before heading home. It was routine. It was comforting. Then one night, after I said goodnight, I turned to leave, and I heard footsteps behind me. At first, I really didn't mind or pay it any attention. I just went on my way home. But then, when I noticed the footsteps were following me in whatever direction I took, I decided to stop outside a local convenience store to take a look behind me. I was interested to see who would follow me. I saw the figure of a woman walking towards me. It was her. She didn't regard me with a flicker of recognition. This is probably because she has never noticed me. She probably didn't even know I existed. I was sure she was heading to the convenience store to buy something, so I headed back to the station. Because I had been following her for about a month or so, I was quite surprised by her decision to return to the convenience store, as she had never done that before. I got on my train. I rode it for about 30 minutes, until I got to my stop. As I began walking through the dark streets, I heard a familiar sound behind me. Footsteps. I unlocked my door and entered my apartment. I peeked out of the window, and there she was, staring at me, outside my door. The same thing happened the day after. After I followed her to her apartment, she did the same U-turn and followed me to mine. I have no idea what happened, what caused this change in her. She had decided to stalk me, but for what reason? The more I thought about this sudden change in her, the more I started to get frightened. I decided to quit following her the next day. I got off my train and headed towards my apartment. It felt strange to go straight home without wishing her goodnight. Then I heard the familiar sound of footfall behind me. Since that night, she has followed me home every night. The hunter has become the hunted. She's trying to get into my room. Every night I hear her slowly turning the doorknob. Recently, she's violently turning the doorknob. I'm really scared in my own home. I lie in bed whispering some nights, "I'm sorry I stalked you." Again and again. She won't go away. I used to read this picture book called I Don't Want to Go to Bed as a child. I remember it when the clock strikes 9. Who's still awake? Black cats, mischievous little mice, thieves, but nighttime is the ghost's time. So who is still playing at this hour? Do you want to be a ghost? The ghost will fly you away to Ghostland, up through the starry night sky. I met a real ghost when I was a child. At least I thought I did. I lived on the 5th floor of an apartment block. I woke up bleary-eyed one night. Something was tapping against the glass balcony door. Then I heard someone calling to me, calling my name from the other side of the glass. "Come and play," someone said. In my imagination, it was just like one of the characters from my picture book. I thought, like in the book, that ghost wanted to take me away. So I whispered, "No, I can't come and play." I was only little. Then, a few nights later, the ghost came back. Only that night, my parents left my window open because it was hot. There was an insect scream between my room and the outside. Just as before, I heard the same voice call my name and ask me to come and play. Again, I refused. But this time, the ghost was angry. "Why aren't you coming? It's so fun. Come out now." I was scared. I remember turning away from the window and trying to ignore it. I think I felt so pressured I might have said something like, "Come again tomorrow, I just can't play tonight." Then I heard the insect scream, being forced aside, and something entered my room. I thought I was about to be taken away, just like in my bedtime story. I ran as fast as I could into my parents' bedroom and grabbed my father's hand and tried to wake him. "Come here. Come and play," I heard from my bedroom. It was such a commanding voice. My father woke up and sped into my room. I heard him scream, "Get out." Since then, I didn't see the ghosts anymore. Now, for the facts. I know what happened. I'm not a little kid anymore. Before my dad married my mother, he had an affair with another woman. That woman had climbed 5 stories. 5 stories of balconies to get to our apartment. When Dad rushed into my bedroom to shout at her, she went crazy, and she started smashing things up in our family home. And my dad had to restrain her until the police arrived. He used duct tape. My dad said that the look the woman was giving him, that intense stare of hatred, still haunts him to this day. This all happened when I was about 4 years old. Every time I asked about what had happened, or anything about the ghost from my picture book, my parents scolded me and asked me to stop bringing it up. My mother was pregnant at the time. I can't imagine the stress that put her under. Now, I'm an adult. Sometimes in the heat of summer, I am reluctant to open my windows. And sometimes, just as I'm drifting off to sleep, I feel as if I'm going to hear that familiar tapping at my window again. I can't recall many fond childhood memories, but I can't erase that one either. When I was at university, I had a good friend who was really good looking, but she never had a boyfriend. or showed any interest in men. I was very curious about this, so I asked her the reason why I never saw her with a boyfriend. She said that there are 2 reasons why. She told me that she had a boyfriend in high school who became obsessed with her. When she couldn't take it any longer, she spoke to him about mutually ending the relationship. He exploded with rage and attacked her. The second reason was, before university, she commuted to school on the train. One day, she found something in her bag, a mysterious sealed envelope. She guessed that someone slipped it into her bag on board the crowded train. The letter was very simple. It only had a few words. Love at first sight. It was a creepy kind of love letter. It wasn't addressed to her. It didn't have her name written on the envelope, so it really creeped her out. Thereafter, she found a new letter in her bag each week. She said she did nothing to encourage these letters. Since this freaked her out, she decided to quit traveling to school on the train. A few days after she stopped commuting, she received a phone call from a number she didn't recognize. She didn't answer the call, but saved the number as Stalker ? A few days passed. She set up an answer phone service to see if the stalker would leave a message, and she was surprised to find that they did. Her hands were shaking as she listened to the message.
Why did you go away? Why did you leave me?
She began to develop a fear of leaving the house, and then a fear of men. It took her years to recover from the fear instilled in her, not only from her ex-boyfriend, but the train stalker too. Once she had her confidence back, she attended university. I wanted to help her get a sense of trust in men again, as there are so many good men out there. I knew I was meddling, but I wanted to help, so I thought I would invite her to a party with male and females attending. I floated the idea to her, and she reluctantly accepted. The day of the party arrived. I invited some of my best friends and male friends I trusted. I warned them all that my friend was nervous and asked them to be on their best behavior. My friends understood and promised to make the atmosphere great for the party. The party was held by our college mentor. I was so proud of her. She spoke to a man for the first time in a long while. They had a lengthy conversation, and it was really great to see that. The guy she spoke to had the exact same taste in music and movies as she did, to the point where they had the same favorite song. They even came from the same area. They could have talked all night. They had so much in common. I felt like it was fate that brought these two together. When the party was over, he asked her for her contact information. I knew this would be a big step for her. I could tell she was happy with this, but she was too shy to show it. She said to me after the party on the way home, "I'm so happy. I can fall in love just like anyone else now." And I was so happy for her. I felt just as excited as she did. A couple of days later, she received an email from him. She was pleased, as you can imagine, and I respected him for taking things slowly. After about a week or so of emailing, she came running into my room to tell me that he had invited her out on a date. The day of the date arrived. My friend didn't want to be late, so she left home in plenty of time. He sent an email stating, "I'll be there shortly. I'll let you know when I arrive." My friend decided to wait in a cafe for him. The cafe was crowded, so she emailed him with her number and asked him to call her when he got there. After about 15 minutes, her phone rang. "It's him," she thought gleefully as she pulled out her phone. Stalker ? Was displayed on the screen. Her heartbeat rose. Old familiar thoughts of fear crept forward from the back of her mind. She calmed herself and told herself that, "I'm okay, my boyfriend's coming and I'll be safe." She decided to be brave and answered the phone. "Hello?" she said.
Hi, I'm here. Where are you?
It was the voice of the man she had met at the party. Her new boyfriend. No mistake. He must have been the one who put the letters in her bag on the train. She called me as she was leaving. All she said was, "I have no luck with men." She escaped that letter stalker with the help of her friends and colleagues. I don't know what they did, but they made him back off. I am shocked and somewhat in awe of that stalker's fascination and persistence with my friend. I wish he had just left her alone. I was in the PTA at my son's school. It was great. Everyone was so nice and friendly. I was chatting with the other mums about the PTA's activities and quickly became friends with one mum in particular. We went to the cinema, had lunch, and before long, we created a close-knit friendship. We formed a group with some other mums, and we would ask each other questions and chatted about our children's grades. Some of us would boast about how well their children were doing. It was always a conversation subject. My child has always been a motivated studier, but my son didn't study as much as my new friend's son. I was not as interested as she was in chatting about the grades. Time went on and our children were set to go to high school. Because we had examinations coming up, I decided to sign my son up for private classes at a cram school. He wanted to go there too. My son did so well on his tests, he got offers from all the best schools in the area. I was very proud, but I didn't discuss this with my friends. I didn't want the other mums to get jealous. Plus, it wasn't their business anyway. In these circles, people can get very envious and friendships can get ruined. One day, it started. Someone was messing with our home. At first, I thought it was just pranks, but after a while, it turned sinister. Someone filled my mailbox up with garbage. Someone threw meat all over the side of my house too. Someone had crossed my name out on my post and wrote "die" in its place. It was a very frustrating time for me, but more than anything else, it was frightening. I was incredibly anxious and I couldn't sleep well during this period. I had no idea what was going to happen next. What kind of thing would this person do? My husband said we should go to the police, but I felt as if it would be a waste of police time as we couldn't identify the culprit. So we decided to install a security camera to see who was doing this to us. One morning, I went out to get the mail and I found a knife stabbed in our mailbox. It was terrifying. We went to check the surveillance camera footage. I was shocked as we watched the footage back. There was my friend, the mum from PTA. She was the one who was doing these horrible things to us. I didn't think she would be capable of doing things like that. I thought we were friends. At first I didn't know what to do about the situation. I was lost. Eventually, I decided to go to her directly and show her the footage. It was then that she said something very unexpected and chilling. I asked her why she was doing this to me and my family. Because your child is performing better than mine. I didn't know how she found out about my son's grades. I never bragged or boasted. I think her son may have been asking my son for his test scores. It transpires that her plan was to drive us out of the area so that her son could become the best in the area again. Since then, I cut all ties with that so-called friend. I'll never speak to her again. This one-upmanship, this culture of boasting and putting others down, is a terrible thing to get involved with. These circles of people can seem friendly, but deep down, they're very bitter and horrid. I have no idea what she might have done to my family if we hadn't caught her red-handed. Stay safe out there, please.